Good evening, hope you're well. Keir Starmer promised a government of transparency, but one of the biggest issues of our time is being carried out in secret. Labour rushed to complete a cloak and daggers handover of the Chagos Islands before Donald Trump takes office in January. And in October, they'd finally come to an agreement that saw us surrender the British overseas territory to Mauritius. Just for clarity, Mauritius has never owned these islands, and their only flimsy connection to them is that native Chagosians were sent there when the British kicked them out in 1968. Granted, it is a very complicated story that stretches back centuries, but the key issue here is that the islands are crucial to UK and US national security because it's home to the Diego Garcia naval base. Here's where it gets messy. Last month, the Mauritius government that agreed the surrender deal with Keir Starmer and David Lammy, they were defeated in a massive election landslide. And on Monday this week, their new administration pulled the plug completely on the old government's agreement, instead demanding even more money from British taxpayers to secure a 99-year lease on Diego Garcia. Up until now, the figure we've been asked to cough up by Mauritius has been kept secret. 100 million, 200 million, nobody knew, and Starmer's government hasn't divulged. That was until today. Tim Shipman, the chief political commentator at the Sunday Times, and his colleague Caroline Wheeler this morning dropped a bombshell piece that finally exposed how much British taxpayers could be fleeced for in the process of giving up their own valuable territory. Are you ready for this? The figure is £800 million a year. £800 million a year for as long as we want to keep the base, plus billions of pounds in reparations on top. Reparations aside, that's a staggering total of £79 billion for a 99-year lease being given to a country who we're stupidly handing over swathes of important land to. Unbelievable. One source told the Times today they wanted crazy money. They were talking £800 million a year for as long as we wanted to keep the base there, plus billions of pounds in reparations. It's unclear how much Labour and Keir Starmer and David Lammy will eventually agree to end up paying and how much of the bill the US will shoulder too. But at a time when British pensioners are freezing to death because this government saw them game for a shakedown of the winter fuel payment, even coughing up a fraction of that figure would be an unforgivable betrayal of Britain. The Prime Minister would also have absolutely no right to ever again mention a £22 billion black hole or his go-to excuse of difficult decisions ever again. And this wouldn't just be a betrayal of Britain either. As Shipman and Wheeler wrote in the Times today, it's also sparked tensions between Britain and the United States. It is a secret deal which has huge implications for national security and global power dynamics, the rise of both China and India, and Western influence in the Indian Ocean for the next century. The International Court of Justice ruled in 2021 that Britain has no sovereignty over the Chagos Islands. I say, if Keir Starmer cared about this country, he'd stop the virtue signalling, tell the pointless and quite frankly toothless ICJ to do one and save up to £79 billion in the process. Let's get the thoughts of my panel now. The editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, former Conservative MP Neil Parish, and the former Labour advisor, Susie Stride. Good evening to you all. Talking of strides, let me take a big one over here. You have to excuse me, I'm 3 lemsips deep so far. I'll sit over here to not share the germs. Neil Parish, let's ask you first. It was your former party who first ignited this deal. What do you think about this figure? I find it astonishing. It could end up something like £79 billion a year, £800 million, over the course of the lease, £800 million a year. That is atrocious, is it not?
Yeah, I think we do have to be careful what figure we agree. I think these islands are essential from a security point of view, and the Americans will also naturally contribute to it, but we don't know how much. And I think the other problem we've got is not just about this particular Chagos Islands. I think it's what happens with other bases we've got all across the world, and I just feel that if we're not careful, we're going to be held to ransom everywhere. So I think the figure that we finally agree, I think in some ways it's very difficult when the international courts decide that we don't have, we should not have sovereignty. But I think if we actually submit to the £800 million a year plus a lot of reparations, I think we will regret it.
Susie, why can't Keir Starmer just ignore the ICJ? Lots of other countries have before. They are pretty toothless. Someone described them as a crisp packet blowing in the wind. They've got no real authority. Why doesn't Starmer just stick up for Britain for once and say no?
I mean, this is an about Keir Starmer or a Labour government. I mean, these talks began under the Conservatives. They began under Boris Johnson, then Liz Truss, James Cleverly. I mean, so, you know, I don't know if he can actually say no, because, you know, part of, you know, having respect in the international community is that you don't ignore courts like this. I think the UK government did go to trial, or went to court twice over it, and both times it came back to say, actually, you need to give these islands back. And I think there comes a point, doesn't it? I mean, look, it is very important that that American base stays there. That is really, really important. It is important, I think, the amount of money that is paid. I think it's important to say it's highly unlikely UK taxpayers are going to pay any of this, because the fact is this island is going to be for an American base. It's going to be Donald Trump and the Americans that are going to pay for that base. It's not our base.
I don't think they'll pay for it. Neil, any ideas on that? I don't think
we can't be certain that they're going to pay for it. I mean, I think they will certainly contribute towards it, because, of course, they've got huge interest in that part of the world because of the rise of China and all the problems surrounding that. So there is a real, you know, Taiwan. All of those issues are very, very important. But we can't guarantee what the Americans will pay. That's the problem.
But there are also cables that are really valuable to us.
Yes, exactly.
Not the Americans. So actually,
with a lot of information coming, lot of information coming through there.
There were reports that I'm not sure if it's true. They'll probably remain secret. But apparently, GCHQ, our spooks this side of the pond, have very secretive cables under the ocean there, coming off the Chagos Islands.
Which is seriously valuable, aren't they?
And of course, the other problem is, of course, the Mauritians could actually sort of negotiate a base with China instead. Now, I don't think they will, because I don't think they're close to China. But I think the problem we've got is like I said, and it is a huge issue, and you're right to raise it. But what I'm more worried about is not only just here, but the rest of what we've got in many other parts of the world. Because you see, whether we still technically control other islands or not, naturally, the population of those islands will also be demanding much bigger sums for our bases to be there as well.
Can I put a theory out there? Okay,
yes.
So the best start to the new year would be if Keir Starmer stuck up for his country, backed out of the deal. He's got a great opportunity to back out of the deal. Yeah. Because the new Prime Minister of Mauritius has already sneered at us. You said it's about international respect. It's not. He said really sneeringly, he said, oh, the British are quibbling over money. It's 800 million quid, that goes. We're quibbling. And also, if he can carry on till January the 20th, Trump will throw it out anyway. Yeah. So I don't know if any of you watched Love Actually over Christmas. It's a bad deal.
Not for many years.
This is the moment Keir Starmer goes, this is a bad deal, and I'm throwing it out and standing up.
And also, Charlotte, isn't it the point, even if we're not shouldering the full £800 million a year, even if it's a fraction of that, right, say it's £5 million a year, that money could be better spent here in Britain. They're stitching up farmers for £500 million a year. They're stitching up pensioners for £1.5 billion a year. That money could be spent in Britain. And after all, can I just say, Neil, the ICJ ruled against Britain. Mauritius have never ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mauritius. I think that is the weakness of the whole argument of the International Court, is that Mauritius' claim to them is virtually nil. I would have thought.
But I also think,
that's the problem. I think David Cameron also, when he was Foreign Secretary, I believe, sort of called it in because
he said it was a joke as well.
Because of the sum.
I don't think whatever may be happening in regards to domestic policy, with farmers or whatnot, this is a different thing. It's very important that we have good security. It's really important that there are strategic bases in strategic places. This is not a Keir Starmer problem that was created by Keir Starmer. This is a problem. Yes, he is in power. Absolutely, he is in power, and so it's incumbent upon him to make sure that he gets the best deal, because ultimately a deal is going to have to be struck.
He could just leave it alone. He could just back away. It's already been.
Charlotte actually got a very good point, because there's no doubt that when Trump comes into power in America in the new year, things will change, for better or for worse. And this is the sort of thing that I would think he would get his teeth into.
Starmer has a way out, I think, Susie. He has a way out. He has an off-ramp with Trump coming in. He can say, sorry, guys, David Dammy and I went over there, we tried our best, they had a new government, they wanted more money, Trump then came in, the clock ran out. Yeah. I just don't think he will. I think he enjoys going around the world, giving money away. I mean, we're giving reports today, we're giving £11 billion in foreign climate aid. I mean, for goodness sake, focus on this country. We are, in many aspects, on our knees. And he just goes, he even said by his own admission he prefers Davos to Westminster. So, I mean, that sums it up.
He could even just do it for himself, if not for the rest of the country. It would be a massive PR win for him to say, do you know what, I stuck up for my country now back to work.
I'm going to be honest with you, PR win. The vast majority of British people, I'm sure some do care about this, but a lot of them probably are caring about other things. But when you say stick up, when you say stick up for this country, what, like making sure that people can get doctor's appointments, making sure that people's schools, you know, have teachers. No, but it's really important because when push comes to shove, what do people care about? These are the things they care about, including sewage not being pumped into their rivers.
You can't make that argument when all the time it's the arguments about money, and the next minute he's going around the world giving away our money. You see, so you cannot actually spend money twice, which this government.
I'd be intrigued to know whether James Cleverly would have got a better deal. Sorry, I'm just intrigued to know whether, like, James Cleverly would have got a better deal. Ultimately, this whole saga began under the Tories. You know, we're trying to finish it off. I mean, look, we don't know what's going to happen. Let's see what happens. Donald Trump is obviously going to change up everything.
Why doesn't he actually, you know, make a show of strength on it then? You know, it's a lovely one. You know, how long he will go on blaming the Tories, whether it be for the whole 5 years, I don't know. But it's not been that long yet. He can carry on doing it. But he has, some time or other, he's got to actually stand up. And what does Keir Starmer actually believe in?
Hugh Grant in Love Actually.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, I just also think, you know, there is something to be said that people were booted off their land. Do you know what I mean? That's what happened. British soldiers. Yes, that may well be true, but British soldiers turned up, booted them off their land, killed all their dogs.
We can't hear you at home when you're both talking over each other.
Sorry.
No problem. I was going to say, Keir Starmer, you could build new hospitals and schools and get GP places, Susie, if Keir Starmer wasn't giving away potentially up to £800 million a year away to Mauritius.
But look, I just don't.
Islands, so.
I mean, look, I'm definitely not an expert in the Chagos Islands, but I'm pretty sure we are not going to be the ones paying that. It is all about an American base. We know that island is all about an American base, so I don't think we're going to be footing that bill.
America are our closest allies, and I think we need to.
Yes, we don't want to.
Anyway, we move on.